Hey everyone, welcome to the OhioRAAM show. My name is Becky Finley, and I'm here enjoying Frankfurt am Main in Germany, and we'll hopefully be having a beer rather soon. Enjoy the show!
Thank you, Becky, for catching us up with what it's like in October in Germany. We hope that you are enjoying yourself as well as getting some work done. I think most of you know we record our show somewhat in advance of the release. The day before we were to record today's show, Becky had a little tumble on her bike and cracked a couple of ribs, cracked her helmet. We are happy to say that she is healed and functioning again, but the day of the recording she just wasn't up to doing it, so today you are stuck with me. Hello, I'm Lee Kreider, the producer of the OhioRAAM show, who's normally behind the scenes, and we come to you 3 times a month on the 7th, 17th, and 27th. Don't forget to check the show notes. They're right below this video on the OhioRAAMshow.com website, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the link to them in the description box below the video. The OhioRAAM show is a service of the Race Across America time stations here in Ohio, time station 41 in Oxford, 42 in Blanchester, and 43 in Chillicothe. So with that, let's head on out to Australia. Hey, Abdullah, help me with your last name. Abdullah?
It's Zeinab.
Zeinab. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Am I close?
Correct. You're close. It's pretty good.
Okay. Well, Abdullah, you first appeared on our radar when we saw the results of your Trans-American this year. Before we get into cycling, Abdullah, tell us a little bit about yourself when you're not riding a bike. What are you doing?
When I'm not riding, well, funnily enough, I'm doing food deliveries for work at the moment on my bike. So it's still on the bike per se. Or sometimes I do laboring for work, like construction laboring. But apart from that, I'm just like regular guy.
I have a feeling you're a lot more interesting than what you try to admit to us, but
it's hard. It's a bit hard. You know, it's a hard question to answer. You know, like
I know. Tell us how you got into cycling, and then a little bit of your background in ultra cycling, how you got into that, and some of the things you've done before we start talking about the Trans Am. All right?
For sure. All right. So I got into cycling. I'm from a place called South Australia. And after I finished high school, I moved to a place called Melbourne, which is like maybe 1,000 kilometers away. And when I got there, I started working on a construction site, which was like maybe 5 or 6 kilometers from the city. So I started riding my bike to work just because it was a good form of transport. And it was so early in the morning, there was no real public transport to get me there. I enjoyed progressing. Like I enjoyed making progress in what I did. So I just started thinking, okay, like, let me see if I can ride outside of work. And I'll just start doing like 10, 15, 20K rides. I was making videos at the time. My friend asked me if I wanted to film this race across Australia called the Indian Pacific Wheel Race. It was the first time it was on. So I was like, yeah. So basically that was my introduction into ultra cycling. But I didn't know there was like a competitive side, like there was a competitive sport that involved this type of cycling. When I saw that, it was just fascinating. I was just fascinated by, in particular, the way they carry themselves more than anything, just how someone can seem so okay and be riding, 400 or 500 kilometers a day at a time with no support. I found that fascinating. So basically after that race finished, I just thought to myself, well, during it, I remember telling my girlfriend that I got to try this race if it's ever on again. But the following year they had an unofficial version and I entered that one and ended up doing okay in it. So we're doing pretty well in it. And that was really the start of it for me.
There is a great magazine article that I found about, I think it was done in Hong Kong, about you, Abdullah. And if you look in the show notes, which I mentioned earlier, you'll see a link to that magazine article, which really intrigued me. And when you said you're just an average guy, well, there are no average people in ultracycling, but I can see where where you're coming from. So, as I said, we first got you on our radar when we saw you in Trans Am. Had you done? Was that your first Trans Am this year?
That was my first Trans Am. I had done a long distance style event across Australia the year before.
Now, how many kilometers or miles, whichever, is the Trans Am? I forget exactly.
It's like I think it's like 4,200 miles.
So, what? How long did the Trans Am take you this year?
It took me 16 days and about 10 hours.
1610. That's pretty remarkable, and it is, as people may not know, totally self-supported. Is that not correct?
Yeah, correct. So you got to carry all your own food and find your own shelter and sleep, and it's completely self-supported. You can just get assistance, like it just has to be available to everyone. So you can go to a shop and get food or a hotel and sleep.
Something I call it foraging. I've never really raced like that, but I've done quite a bit of long distance touring, including coast to coast events, and by myself. I enjoy being by myself. I don't know. Do you enjoy that feature of it?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I don't know if I'd enjoy the support. Like, I mean, I don't think I'd enjoy having a crew there. I can't enjoy the journey by myself. Like, I find I do better like that.
Tell me, what was the hardest part of that? What was the most interesting?
I feel like I met with quite a lot of resistance, at least mentally. Like, even I could train for like a year for it, and I could be so certain that I'm going to do it. But even within that first day, I feel like giving up. It's quite pronounced. So just to get over that is quite hard. But once you're over that, I find it for myself, it becomes quite smooth sailing for a while. And then it gets hard towards the end, like just because you just can't avoid. I find I can't avoid the fatigue. Like mentally, it becomes so challenging. I feel like I have to fight for every single kilometer, just because there's almost no escape anymore. Like once you get over that first hurdle, and then I have that middle bit. Like that middle bit's all good because I have enough energy to focus, and it's really, for me, it's just a matter of focus. Like, but the focus requires energy, and then by the end, you have no energy, so you can't focus, and you just feel like you're fighting for every single kilometer.
What keeps your mental activity going?
For me, I try and get away from thinking. I try and like leave thinking to the side. Like I've always found that thinking gets me in trouble. So it's almost like the thinking side of me, like the logical thinking or whatever side of me is trying to shut me down and tell me to stop. So I try and focus to the point that there's no thinking anymore, and you're just able to ride. You'll focus, and before you know it, like hours pass without even realizing. I find that when I ride, I realize that it actually takes a lot of energy to think, and that's energy not being put into the pedals. So, honestly, to me, the whole thing was interesting. Like I ran into some wildlife. I ran into a couple bears, like coming out of West Yellowstone National Park. I'm now sitting here talking to you in this lobby. Like I'm glad, like I ran into the bears because it was an interesting experience. But before, like I was so worried about these bears. I was like, do I take bear spray? And someone was like, dude, bear spray is huge. Like the thing is, I'm probably not going to spray. Like, that's a situation I can't imagine myself whipping out bear spray and spraying a bear anyway. But it was nice. I ran into a couple of these bears on a pass coming outside of West Yellowstone National Park, and it was beautiful to see them. Really, I was scared at the time, but when you're so tired and you're so like you're on a mission, so I wasn't as scared as I thought I'd be. The first bear I was riding to the side of it, and then someone pulled up next to me. He's like, "Oi, watch out! There's a bear right there!" And I freaked out, so I jumped off and ran across the side of the road. And then the next one was this big grizzly bear that was just walking across the road with its babies, but it was taking so long. But I was like aware because I knew like when the bears are with their babies, that's like worst case scenario. So I just stood there for like 20 minutes waiting for this bear to go, and then jump in the bushes. And I was thinking like, oh, is this bear gone? And then eventually I just rode off.
What was your different sleep arrangements? What was the most interesting sleep arrangement you had?
Do you know what? Like I like sleeping in hotels. The thing is, when I went across Australia, I slept in a hotel every night, except maybe a couple nights when I went over 24 hours. I just had a nap. For the majority of crossing America, I would go like 500, between 400 to 600 kilometers, and then sleep in a hotel for maybe. The thing is with the hotel is like I find the quality of sleep is good,
right.
But at the same time, it's it's time consuming relative to the amount of sleep you get. Like, let's say if you pulled over on the side of the road and you slept 4 hours, like it might only be a 4.5 hour exercise between pulling up, sleeping the 4 hours and leaving. But with a hotel, like you pull in, you have to check in, you go in there, you get out, and then you have to, there's a bit of time added on either side. But I find that the quality of sleep's pretty good. But I'd probably sleep 3.5 to 4 hours a night. But then I found that when I was getting towards Kansas, I was getting so tight, like my body was just breaking down way quicker than I thought it would. So I started sleeping maybe 4 hours. I found that the sleep was more critical because it was such a long distance. I would just lose out on my efficiency throughout the day if I was just too tired. So there's kind of like a delicate balancing act. Like I actually found I'm not sure sleeping 6 hours would do anything. You'd probably still be just destroyed. But the difference between sleeping 3 hours and 4 hours, like I felt a substantial difference in the way that I rode and my clarity. So I would do that. And then by the end of it, like I was getting so tired that I would have these like 20-minute naps. There were so many churches and they always would have like a porch. I would just pull into the porch, have a 20-minute nap, 15-minute nap and jump up and go.
I find out when I stayed in a hotel, you better take your shower and rinse out your clothes before you lay down because there was you were out like a light.
I'm exactly the same. Like once you go down, you're not getting up. It's crazy how quick you fall asleep. Like it's insane. So I made sure as soon as I'd go in, I'd like put everything on charge straight away, have a shower straight away, and then jump in bed and then make sure I set my alarm straight away. Like all these things, because I know that once your head hits that pillow, like it's within.
You are gone goose. Yeah, I understand.
It's probably within a minute.
Abdullah, what adventures do you have in your future?
I'd have to really want to do it, and I'd have to want to. For me, I would want to improve. And I think now, for me to improve, it requires a lot more time. I couldn't do it next. Like if I wanted to do it next year, I couldn't do it next year. Like I don't think I'd improve as much as I'd want to improve. I think next time I want to go out there, I really want to take it to another level, which I haven't taken it to. Once the training starts, there's almost no turning back. I'm just waiting until the time feels right, and then I'll probably look at the calendar and decide what's next.
Abdullah, I have a feeling you'll be out there somewhere sometime. I just think that you can't. Once you got that bug bit you, it will not go away. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate that. We wish you well. We hope we'll see something of you again. We'll be watching leaderboards for your name. Maybe one of these days, huh?
I hope so.
We do like to watch these events, and we wish you well. Thank you so much for being with us, Abdullah.
I appreciate it.
And thank all of you who watch the show and support the show. That means quite a lot to us. Our next show will be on October the 27th, and we'll have some clips from the Race Across America team seminars that happen at different locations around the world. One of them we're fortunate to have right here in Dublin, Ohio, and we're always happy to meet with crew members, with teams, and renew our acquaintance with Fred. We hope you're signing up already if you're in the Race Across America, Race Across the West. And even if you're thinking about 2021, it's not too early to get to one of these seminars. With that said, we'll see you again in about 10 days. Goodbye.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.